You have more human beings within digital reach than every person who lived before the 20th century combined. Your phone puts 8 billion lives at your fingertips, and your brain thinks you are still sitting around a fire with exactly 150 people. It does not know about the internet. It does not know about algorithms. It is running software that is 200,000 years out of date, and that mismatch explains more about your anxiety, your loneliness, and your exhaustion than almost anything else in modern life. In the early 1990s, a British anthropologist named Robin Dunbar made an observation that should have changed how we think about connection. He noticed that primates with larger neocortexes lived in larger social groups, but it was not total brain size that mattered. It was the ratio between the neocortex and the rest of the brain. Dunbar plotted this ratio against group size across 38 species of primates. The correlation was striking. Then he ran the same calculation for humans. The result was 150. That number became known as Dunbar's number. It represents the cognitive limit on the number of stable social relationships your brain can actually maintain, not names you recognize, not faces you have seen. Real relationships where you know who someone is, how they relate to everyone else, and what they owe the group. Dunbar found this number everywhere he looked. Traditional hunter-gatherer bands averaged around 150 members. Early Neolithic farming villages organized themselves at roughly 150 people. Military companies throughout history have hovered around 150 soldiers. Even the average Christmas card list in modern Britain falls near 150 names. Your brain did not evolve for cities. It did not evolve for corporations or social media platforms. It evolved for a small circle of faces you saw every single day. And here is where it gets strange. You do not experience 150 people as a crowd. You experience it as the entire world. Every person in that circle mattered to your survival. If someone was angry at you, you felt it in your chest. If someone was missing, you noticed before the sun went down. If the group turned against you, you died. Your brain treats social rejection the same way it treats physical injury because for most of human history, they led to the exact same outcome. Psychologist John Cacioppo spent decades studying what happens when social needs go unmet. He found that chronic loneliness does not just feel bad. It alters gene expression. It raises blood pressure. It weakens immune function. Your body literally starts breaking down when it believes you have been cast out of the tribe. But here is the twist. You have not been cast out. You have been drowned in a flood of synthetic social signals. In 1973, sociologist Mark Granovetter published a paper that changed how we understand social networks. He introduced the idea of weak ties. These are the loose connections to acquaintances, the casual friends of friends, the people you nod to but do not truly know. Granovetter showed that weak ties are useful for finding jobs and spreading information. But they are not relationships. They do not satisfy the deep wiring that expects a circle of 150 trusted souls. Your brain does not count a like from a stranger as social nourishment. It counts it as noise. And noise is exhausting. Think about how you feel after an hour of scrolling. You are not energized. You are depleted. You have consumed hundreds of social signals and absorbed none of the nutrients your brain actually needs. This is why you can sit in a room with 8 billion people digitally connected to you and still feel the ancient panic of isolation. Your neocortex is trying to map a social world that has exploded far beyond its design limit. It is like trying to run modern software on a machine built for tracking antelope. The result is predictable. You feel overwhelmed, you feel anxious, you feel like you are failing at something fundamental even when you cannot name what it is. But you are not failing. You are simply asking your brain to do something it was never built to do. Dunbar's research revealed something else that most people miss. The 150 is not one flat circle. It is a series of nested layers. You have an inner circle of about 5 people. These are the ones you would turn to in a crisis, the ones whose pain feels like your own. Then a layer of about 15 close friends, then 50 good friends, then the full 150. Each layer requires a different investment of time and emotional energy. And here is the part that should make you pause. Maintaining each relationship in that inner circle of 5 requires roughly 40% of your total social time and effort, not 10%. 40. Your brain allocates its social budget like a strict accountant. And when you spread that budget across 500 social media connections, nobody gets enough. The math is brutal, and it does not care about your intentions. You cannot trick 200,000 years of evolution with a friend request. So what happens when you try? You end up with what researchers call connection without intimacy. You know surface details about hundreds of people. You know the deep truth about almost no one. And your brain registers this as a kind of starvation. It keeps sending hunger signals because the food it is being offered has no calories. This is not a willpower problem. This is not a character flaw. This is biology meeting technology at a speed evolution cannot match. Your ancestors did not have the option to curate their social world. They were stuck with the same 150 people for their entire lives. They had to resolve conflict because they could not block someone. They had to build trust because they could not swipe to the next option. They had to show up because absence meant death for the group and for themselves. And in that constraint, they found something you are constantly searching for. A sense of belonging that did not depend on performance. A social safety net woven from daily presence, not digital availability. Now, this is not a call to delete your accounts and move to a remote village. Modern life has genuine benefits that your ancestors would have given anything to possess: clean water, antibiotics, the freedom to choose your own path. But it is a call to understand the trade-off. You have traded depth for breadth, and your brain is begging you to reconsider the exchange. Look at the people who report the highest life satisfaction across every culture studied. It is not the people with the largest networks. It is the people with the strongest inner circles. 5 people who would show up at 3 in the morning. 15 people who know your real story. That is the architecture your brain understands. That is the tribe it is still trying to build. Everything else is optional decoration, and decoration is fine as long as you know it is decoration. The danger is when you confuse the wallpaper for the foundation. When you measure your social worth by follower count and likes, you are using a ruler that your brain does not recognize. It is like trying to measure temperature with a clock. The numbers might look impressive, but they do not map to anything your nervous system actually values. So what can you do with this information? You can start by auditing your social budget the same way you audit your finances. Where is your time actually going? How much of it lands in that inner circle of 5? How much of it evaporates into feeds and notifications that leave you emptier than when you started? You do not need to become a hermit. You need to become intentional. Your brain does not want more connections. It wants better ones. It wants the ancient rhythm of repeated face-to-face contact. It wants to see expressions it can read without emojis. It wants conversations that wander without timestamps. It wants to know that if disaster struck, there are hands that would reach for you without being asked. This is why a 3-hour dinner with old friends can leave you glowing for days, and why 3 hours of social media can leave you numb. One feeds the wiring, the other floods it, and your brain knows the difference even when you do not. There is another layer to this that makes the modern condition even more disorienting. Your brain expects social hierarchy. In a tribe of 150, you knew exactly where you stood. You were not comparing yourself to airbrushed celebrities with millions of followers. You were comparing yourself to the person across the fire. The gap was visible, but it was bridgeable. Today, your brain is constantly calibrating your status against an infinite feed of curated perfection, and because the feed is infinite, you always lose. There is always someone richer, more attractive, more successful, more traveled. Your ancestors never had to process this much comparative data. Their status system was local and therefore manageable. Yours is global and therefore impossible. No wonder anxiety is the background radiation of modern life. Your brain is running a status checking program designed for a village against a dataset the size of humanity itself. The mismatch is not subtle, it is catastrophic. And it is completely invisible because everyone around you is experiencing the exact same malfunction. We normalize the abnormal because the abnormal is all we have ever known. But your nervous system remembers. It remembers in the way your shoulders drop when you sit with someone who truly knows you. It remembers in the way your breath deepens when you are in a room where you do not have to perform. It remembers in the way your sleep improves after a weekend with friends and deteriorates after a week of digital noise. These are not metaphors. They are biological signals. They are your body trying to tell you that you have drifted from the conditions that shaped it. And the beautiful, terrifying truth is that you cannot fully fix this. You cannot rewind civilization. You cannot uninvent the technologies that have reshaped your social landscape. But you can stop blaming yourself for feeling lost in a world your brain was not built to navigate. You can stop measuring your social health with metrics designed for machines. You can choose to invest your limited social energy where it actually registers. Because here is the final reframe. Your brain is not broken. It is faithful. It is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It is holding out for a tribe of 150 people who matter. And in a world that offers you 8 billion faces, the most radical thing you can do is choose the few who count. You have more human beings within digital reach than every person who lived before the 20th century combined. And now you know that your brain was never wrong. It was just waiting for you to build the 150 that count.